the Straw Hat Crew's assemblage has been rather needs-driven on the part of Luffy. His mission when he first left his island was to form a crew of about 10 members, and instead of adding just any person that was interested in pirating, not that he didn't try, Luffy sought members to fill certain desires and needs that he had for his crew. Sanji is the cook, Nami is the navigator, Usopp is the marksman or sniper, Brook is the musician, Frankie is the shipwright, Chopper is the doctor, Robin is the archaeologist, which to most crews wouldn't be necessary, but considering they're seeking the One Piece, she is key, and Jinbei is the helmsman. But what does this mean for Zoro, the Straw Hat's first crewmate? When it comes to the actual crew, we know that Zoro does a lot of working out and a lot of sleeping, but what is his actual role? To answer that question, we have to look at what a first mate actually is. A first mate of a ship is more generally known as the first officer. This is the person highest in command of the ship under the captain. The first mate oversees the various departments of the ship and otherwise stands in for the captain as needed. So what does this mean for the Straw Hats? Because the Straw Hats aren't a typical crew. The Straw Hat crewmates are pretty much autonomous in their functioning, and the crew itself isn't large enough to even necessitate more than one person in oversight. The Straw Hat crew is not a gigantic multi-level crew like perhaps the Whitebeard pirates, where it would necessitate having a first mate or multiple captains of multiple ships like Ace was for the Whitebeard pirates. Also, the Straw Hat crew is not a typical crew. The Straw Hats are weird. Luffy is weird. So it would make sense that Zoro, as the first mate of his crew, would serve a slightly different role to further the mission of Luffy. So if we look very carefully at how Zoro functions within the crew, we see that one of the first things he does is generally an aspect of what a first mate or first officer does. That thing is he looks for Luffy's blind spots. Zoro isn't the kind of character that is quiet and to himself and likes to lay down for its own sake. When all the crewmates of the Straw Hat crew are riled up, or if Luffy is excited about something important or getting new information, Zoro is often seen processing the information in order to create the right strategy or decision in the case that his captain makes a faulty one. Zoro is also one of the crewmates that ensures the safety of their property. When the crew has to leave their ship and roam about a new island, Zoro has often volunteered himself to stay behind, not just to sleep, but to ensure the safety of their ship, one of the most important members of the crew. Additionally, when we see Zoro working with Luffy on a project, or he's in the field with Luffy, you often see Zoro step back before acting. We see this as early as the Whiskey Peak arc, when Luffy and the other Straw Hat pirates were being indulged by the Baroque Works members, who were in disguise as happy and helpful townsfolk. Zoro stayed on guard. So when the time came when Luffy fell into a food coma and the rest of his crew had fallen asleep, now vulnerable from an attack from the Baroque Works members, Zoro was able to act, and Zoro defeated about 100 of those Baroque Work members. Instead of getting drunk the night before, instead of eating himself to sleep, Zoro's job as the eyes for the Straw Hat pirates and the person who sees all of Luffy's blind spots, decided to protect himself and his crew by staying alert and awake while everyone else fell asleep. We also see this when it comes to making decisions. While what the Straw Hats do and where they go is generally and unilaterally a Luffy decision, Zoro does at times make his voice heard in order to guide Luffy and the rest of the crew in the right, most logical direction, whether they like it or not. Zoro acts as the voice of reason when he directs Luffy and the rest of the crew not to seek out the whereabouts of Princess Vivi when they realize that she has gone missing. Zoro is an excellent foil for Luffy because he often offsets Luffy's untamed passion and zaniness with rationality and reason. Zoro does this many times, often acting as the voice of dignity and right-mindedness, especially when the passions, loves, and hearts of the Straw Hat crew would have them belittle themselves or act in a manner that would undermine the crew's integrity. especially on a world stage. He does this when he acknowledges that a crew member may decide to leave on their own. Zoro represents the moral standard to which all Straw Hat pirates need to be held. Zoro is also a superb fighter. Not only does Zoro take the place of Luffy when it comes to decisions that need to be made, helping Luffy find the right mind to act on something or to understand something that is missing, Zoro also takes Luffy's place in the case that he has to fight somebody that might be in his way, or if Luffy is at all taken out of battle. Zoro does this constantly throughout the Straw Hat journey, as he steers Luffy away from lesser battles so that he can focus on the bigger battles and bigger enemies in front of them. Zoro did this in Luffy's battle with Kaido. Parts of that extended battle were fought by Zoro instead of Luffy, when Luffy was out of commission or needed to recover from overextending himself. In one scene during the Thriller Bark arc of One Piece, Zoro literally takes the place of Luffy, taking on all of his pain when Kuma gives him the opportunity to take all of Luffy's pain away from him after his battle. A battle in which it wasn't clear Luffy would recover from. When Zoro had the opportunity to do this, he took on Luffy's burdens without hesitation. He also does this in a battle against Rob Lucci. Lucci had just finished battling Luffy, but when Luffy was otherwise preoccupied with another enemy and other priorities, Zoro seamlessly took his place fighting against Lucci and keeping him from getting any further than him. So what we see from Zoro throughout the series of One Piece in the context of the Straw Hat crew is a character who is constantly watching and observing. Zoro is a character that is always looking to protect his captain and their mission together. He is a voice of reason and a surrogate in cases where Luffy needs someone to take his place. Zoro is the most loyal member of the Straw Hat crew, and although his role on the Straw Hat crew is less obvious because all of the Straw Hat characters use their insights and knowledge to benefit the crew and also fight on behalf of the Straw Hat pirates, what Zoro provides the Straw Hats, and more importantly Luffy as his first officer, requires a level of sacrifice that other members of the Straw Hat pirates are perhaps not unwilling but unable to give. So there can be no mistake that Zoro is the true first mate of the Straw Hat Pirates.
何もなかった。